Welcome, everyone, to this episode of Helantra. I'm very, very excited for everyone to be here. I'm very grateful. Today's topic is going to be about trauma and how trauma manifests in the body as chronic pain. Our guest today is someone that is very, very close to my heart. She is a Pilates teacher. She is a therapist of Cranial Sacral Therapy technique. And she also channeled a beautiful, beautiful modality called infinite flow healing, hands-on healing experience that works on the soul level to help ease physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual blocks. She's very passionate about bringing women together. She's a beautiful mother of 2 children and 5 animals who I absolutely adore. And I'm very grateful for her to be here with me today. Janelle, welcome to Helantra, and I'm very happy
Thank
to
you.
have you with us today. And
Excited to be here.
thank you so much. Please tell me about you and your background and how it is that you got to start practicing cranial sacral therapy.
Sure. So I started in the corporate world and always felt like I was missing something in life, and eventually discovered Pilates. And halfway through my first Pilates class, realized that I fell in love. So I then trained to become a Pilates teacher, which I still do. And I very much love that and see the benefit. But as time went on, I was searching for something else. So I studied Theta and I studied Reiki, and I just experienced so many different things. I was really searching. And then I found cranial sacral therapy. So such a joy to be able to do.
What does it mean, cranial sacral therapy, and how does the process go?
Sure. So I think when people hear cranial sacral therapy, they initially go to, oh, yes, that's for babies. But actually, it's for everybody. It's from newborn all the way up till your dying breath, quite literally. It really is for everybody, whatever you're going through. It's a hands on, very gentle modality. So there's no cracking, no manipulation. It has roots in osteopathy. So a lot of people don't know that William Sutherland, the osteopath who came up with cranial, one day was looking at the skull. And up until 100 years ago, we thought the skull was one solid bone. And when he was looking at the temporal bones, he thought, this reminds me of the gills of a fish, and had the sort of idea of the temporal bones breathing. So suddenly he came up with this idea to design a hat, which had all these contraptions and screws in it. And every time he would change it, so what would happen would be different parts of the skull would not be able to move. And the story goes, his behavior became so crazy, his wife threatened divorce. So he had to take the hat off. But basically, through this, cranial sacral therapy was founded. So it was this understanding of the cranium in the head and the sacrum at the bottom of the tailbone. So he already came up with the concept of cranial sacral therapy, and he was called to come to a patient's deathbed, and he was holding the person's system. They were suffering, they had a lot of pain. As that person passed and they were no longer with us, there was this immense stillness. And this is when the concept of the breath of life was born. So, what is this breath of life? The breath of life is basically this rhythm in the body, is believed to originate in the cerebral spinal fluid, which bathes the brain and bathes the spinal cord, and it protects the brain and the spinal cord as well. This rhythm is said to be the vital force of our well-being and of our health. And as a therapist, when we put our hands on the person's system, it shows up as a gentle pulsation. And it really, for us, indicates where the person is in terms of health. So cranial basically works with what we call the body's innate intelligence to return to health. What does that mean? You know, it sounds something quite mystical. The best way I find that my clients grasp this concept is to explain, if you lived in the jungle and you broke your leg and you couldn't get to a doctor, of course the villagers and different people, they would wrap the leg, they would give you a walking stick, the bone would heal. Now you may have pain for the rest of your life, you may walk with a limp, but ultimately the bone would heal. Same as if you chop the top of your finger off. Sorry, it's a little bit gruesome, but if you chop the top of your finger off, again, as long as you don't bleed to death, the body knows how to heal itself. Our system is intelligent and it knows how to return to health.
I find that very interesting what you say about the body's innate ability and intelligence to heal itself, like you said it. It's within it. And I think we sometimes get too much in our heads that we don't allow it the space and the time to just do that in the way that it's supposed to.
So based on what you're saying now, as well as what I find with clients, particularly people that have had cancer, when they're lying on the bed and you ask them to connect and they're healed of cancer, they've not had cancer maybe for 8 to 10 years, but when you ask them to connect to an area of health in the body, they can't give you one place. Even though they're cancer free and they've been healthy for a long time, we as a society tend to focus on the negative. Say, for example, you've got a sore head, you focus on the head, you don't focus on all the areas of health in your body. So, this is part of the reason I really love Cranial. We are looking for health. And actually, oftentimes, somebody might have, let's say, a sore right hip. We might actually, your body might tell us to come to the left hip. Why? Because then the left hip's health is reminding the right hip how it feels to be healthy.
Very intense what you just said there about this client of yours when you asked her, where in your body can you feel healthy? And she couldn't answer. Probably to me, that sounds like, I got so used to being in that state that I just now define myself as a sick person. Do you think that's the person putting themselves in victim mode?
What I do in my work, I would say, and this is again why I love Cranial, it works on all levels. And if you look at the majority of people that are going through cancer treatment, they're focusing on the physical. I have cancer. I need to eradicate my body of this tumor. It's not emotionally. So I also find with people that have maybe gone through cancer, they've cleaned everything up, but mentally they still have the same negative thought process. As per the placebo effect, we now know that we have the ability to literally make ourselves well. Therefore, we also have the ability to make ourselves unwell. So the thought patterns we have as well is really important. So with Cranial, the person's lying on the bed, usually face up, and the therapist will tend to start at the feet, maybe the head. We come into this magical space called state of balanced awareness. What does that mean? The best way to explain that for me is you literally become one with the universe. So it's not the therapist and then the client on the table. Suddenly you're all one. Your system then is able to meet the client's system. This magical space also allows the therapist to really down-regulate, to come into the rest and digest nervous system, to then allow the person on the table to come down more into their rest and digest nervous system so the body has time to heal. Most nervous systems walking around at the moment are in fight or flight. We don't even realize it. We have a moment, the tiger literally is chasing you from behind, its teeth are about to come into your back. Now, if you look at a dog, they get hit by a car. They may not even get hit by the car, but they have that fear, they get that fright. What do? They go to the side of the road and they shake. You see them vibrating. What do? And I see this a lot with my clients. We might go, and the body becomes tense, and then we hold this trauma inside of us instead of letting it go.
I always give this example when I talk to people about, being in stress for too long. So animals in nature, they can, like you said, get in and out of stress. If they're in the stressful moment and a stressful situation, the body reacts accordingly. Maybe the energy goes into the legs, then into the heart for palpitation, into the lungs so that they can breathe faster, and then they can run and get away from that stressful situation. And then after that, it takes them a moment to just recalibrate and then go back to, like you say, maybe homeostasis. So now that you mentioned trauma, and this is the main topic of our conversation today, and I keep hearing this word a lot from so many different people. I had this trauma. How would you define trauma?
Yeah, so trauma basically is psychological or emotional response to an event or a series of events. So it can be something like a car accident, the death of a loved one, divorce of parents, or it can be a series of incidents like physical abuse or bullying. So it's not necessarily just one thing. It's very important to note that everybody reacts differently. So you might have two siblings in a household with a physically abusive father, and you'll find potentially that the son could go on, be absolutely fine. He processed it because in the moment he got angry, he yelled at his daddy, let it out. But maybe the sister held everything inside, and as she got older, that started to impact her and then show up as anxiety, for example.
So it sounds like it's something either, like you said, one event or a series of events that happened to you that made you react a certain way, and then that reaction got stored in your body in a certain way. Is that how it is?
Yes. So what happens is when we go through trauma, so imagine the tiger running behind you. And what happens, our body, because of course we want to survive, we're designed to survive, releases stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol. And then when this danger is over, the idea is that the adrenaline and the cortisol comes down and we come back down into our rest and digest nervous system. But a lot of the times today, we're continually going through these different types of trauma and different types of stresses. So people's adrenaline and cortisol are just going higher and higher, and they're staying there. And this is then what's causing inflammation and physical pain in people.
Can you tell us about a specific case that you've treated where trauma manifested in your client as chronic pain? Where did it manifest? Talk to us about such a case.
Yeah, so basically what you tend to see is people are coming to you for sessions. Nobody comes to you, rarely anyway, and says, I'm here because I've gone through trauma or I have unprocessed trauma. Most of us don't realize that. So I've had people come, for example, with back pain and real tightness in the mid back, the upper back, and coming into the neck. And actually, when you start tapping into their system, the back pain will show up, but you get that sense of trauma. So it feels like a high vibration that they're not able to rest. And then that tension. So that another thing, when our body's gone through a trauma, we get physical tension. So you can imagine, again, being chased by the tiger. Everything in your body is wired to get you to run. All of the muscles are tight. If your body at some point doesn't understand that you're then safe, the muscles are going to stay tight, and this then stays in the body. So I have somebody coming with back pain, but actually she's gone through a trauma of a death. And what shows up for me is grief in the heart. So instead of focusing on the back pain, we're actually focusing on allowing that person to release themselves of the grief.
So when you discussed about CST, cranial sacral therapy, you mentioned that it's working with the central nervous system, right? And then you mentioned the skull and then the sacral, the pelvic area, and then they're connected by the spine, right? So there is, as I understand, there is this fluid that runs through the spine, through this entire central nervous system.
Yeah, so everything is connected, but the cerebral spinal fluid is around the brain and the spinal cord. But through the CSF, we call it, you feel this breath of life. What happens is when we have our hands on somebody, you can feel where there's blocks. So on somebody who's fully healthy on all levels, when they lie on the table, it literally is called a tide. You will feel the tide of energy flow up and down the body in a regular pattern. If that person, most people do, have blockages, the tide will get stuck. You will feel that area, the fulcrum, the point where it's just not flowing. So sometimes we call it the inherent treatment plan. So this is what the body is showing us. We would never go into a session and say, okay, this person's coming with back pain, I'm going to come and hold their back. We would come to the feet or the head. Like I say, you can start anywhere on the body. And actually, even though the pain's in the back, we might be guided to come to the neck. We might be guided to come to the head. It could be the ribs. It could be the knee. The body will show you where it needs to go.
And that's part of that intelligence that you were talking about. Is that part of your body is screaming for help, like, here, this is where you need to focus.
Exactly.
So when we talk about trauma manifesting in the body or showing up in the body as chronic pain, what would you say are the most common areas where people come with chronic pain that you might say is caused by trauma?
I would definitely say the back. The spine's a big area to hold the trauma. Neck, shoulders. It can show up in the jaw. It really can show up anywhere. I mean, I don't think there's a set thing, but for me, commonly, it is the back, it's the neck, the shoulders, the jaw. And it's more, you get this sense of somebody in that moment of trauma. I think I said it earlier, taking a breath, like, and they freeze. Everything's stuck inside. And it's like they're just reliving that trauma over and over again. Mm-hmm. So imagine those stress hormones just continually running in your body. It's exhausting and it can lead to burnout.
Yeah, it makes total sense. So what different conditions can be treated with CST? We mentioned that you had clients who had cancer in the past before they came to see you.
So when I'm talking about cranial for cancer, it wouldn't necessarily work with the cancer, but it would be more to help that person emotionally and also with the physical aches and pains with chemo. It works really on everything. So you can have newborn babies having sleep issues, reflux, can help adults with sciatica, fibromyalgia, anxiety, depression, back and neck pains, as we discussed, headaches, migraines is a big one as well. The main feedback I get from clients when they're coming with something physical, they feel better with the physical ailment, but actually they're always surprised at how much better they feel emotionally. So that's always nice to see that it really is working on all levels. It's not, and I'm not taking away from physiotherapy, but when you're going for more of a manual thing, it is more on a physical level. Don't get me wrong, you will have an emotional release as well, but cranial really is taking that into account.
And that comes to show that, we're whole beings. We're not just the sum of our parts. We're not just our emotions alone. And that doesn't work on itself, on its own. We're not just a physical body. The physical body doesn't work on its own. So we're integration of our mind and our body, and how this integration also flows contributes to whether we're healthy or we're feeling healthy or we're not. So it's not just treating the symptom. You're not just treating the lower back pain or the jaw tension. You're looking at it from a holistic perspective.
Very much.
And this is why, I love such practices and these modalities, because you're coming and looking at the person who's in front of you, you as a practitioner, as a whole being, not just a person who has lower back pain.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is why I love it. And also, I love it so much because sometimes people are holding something that they don't want to talk about. And, I had one client, for example, who had done a lot of therapy over a particular subject and really felt like she was good, she was done. But with this work, I could feel the emotions of anger and grief really allowing itself to leave the system as well. But I didn't need to share that with her. There's no need to bring that up for her, but it's just knowing that it's given her the space to do that.
So do your clients normally talk to you when you're doing the session, or is it like quiet?
Good question. Yeah, so it's a mix. There are some people that literally treat that as their meditation time because it really is a great practice for self-care to come and do cranial sessions. You might have some people that maybe don't have such a good support system around them. So it is important for them to talk. But this is why I like to give time before and after the session so we can do some talking before, because it is ideal if the person can just really rest on the table. I mean, when I say allow everything to unfold, even if they're talking, it does still work, but it gives you time to, come down into your rest and digest nervous system.
So how long does the session take normally?
Generally on the table, you're looking at approximately 40 minutes. So I tend to do an hour. For the first session, I would do 90 minutes because, of course, it's the first time you're meeting them. You're taking the history. We're getting to know each other. But then follow-ons are 60 minutes, maybe an hour and 15 maximum. Because like I say, there should be time for talking before and after.
And how many sessions would you say would a person need? I know it usually depends on their condition, but on average, if you can give us like a range.
Yeah, it's another good question. It's always that analogy of how long is a piece of string. So I had a friend with sciatica and she had it during COVID, and we did one session and it went away and it didn't come back, which was amazing. One of my tutors, when I was doing the course, we asked her, if you have somebody that's coming and they're really not seeing any changes, this tends to be with people that are more disconnected from their bodies. She said she would put an 8 limit on the number of sessions. If you get up to 8 and the person really isn't seeing any progress, that would be the time to maybe then look for another therapist or another modality. So you can have miracles happen in session 1. I would say between 1 and 8, you should be looking to have things cleared up. Yeah.
I like those sessions where the person comes out of the first session and they're doing amazing. To me, it sounds like they were ready to receive the healing, right? So they were ready to heal.
And that's the thing. Healing is very complicated. It's multi-layered. It's not as simple as I have a sore back, just fix it. It's exactly that. Is the person ready to release that pain? Do they want the pain to go away? So it's complex.
So you mentioned before that craniosacral therapy can be used on babies, on children, basically any age. Have you turned anybody away before?
No, if somebody's really literally just come out of massive head trauma, for example, we would tend to wait till they get the approval from the doctor. Serious surgeries, you would always want to get the doctor's approval before you go ahead with sessions. Other than that, it's okay to work on anybody. We always have to be mindful of people that are on medication, especially for mental issues, just in case there's any changes or different things with that. But then that's all. The key thing is for us to always say we're not a doctor, and to know the medication that they're on and any changes that they're feeling in their behavior to let us know, and then to let their doctor know. And I always with Pilates, like to always work with physios and osteopaths, because it's not just for me, it's not necessarily just one person that's going to help that person to heal. So with cranial sacral therapy, I also like to work with doctors that person has that support network. Yeah.
As we were talking before, that health is multi-layered, as you say. So it's a combination and integration of the physical health, the mental health, the emotional health. Also, from the other side, I believe that there is a system that could be tailored to the person's needs. And that system might, require different expertise to come on board. And then, so how do you find that system? It's probably trial and error from the side of the patient. And it also could be from mindful practitioners and mindful experts that are working with the person to come and say, I think you need to go and see this expert or that doctor, and I would really recommend it. Right. So, yeah, I think this integration of everything, this is what I'm interested in when it comes to health. So, do you practice craniosacral therapy on yourself? How often do you do it? Or do you get somebody else to do the treatment for you?
Another great question. So you can do it for yourself. Of course, you're a little bit limited because we need our hands. I mean, I say that you can actually lie and take yourself into that space, but there is something magical about somebody holding that space for you. So if I have a headache, for example, I will often do a hold on my eyes because the membranes from the brain cover the eyes. Very gentle touch here, maybe here. If I have a blocked nose, I can just come here. The ethmoid bone's there. This is a magical touch. My son always comes to me, just puts my finger here when he can't breathe properly. But I have a friend who, her and I do swap sessions because it's not the same me doing 5 minutes on my own versus lying on the bed and receiving for 30 minutes. And it always allows me to stay in the space of remembering the beauty of the work and the power of the work as well.
If you were to give one advice to anyone watching this video of how they can take care of their health, what would it be?
So I think through all of the work I've done and all of the clients I've dealt with, the main thing I'm seeing is people not expressing their emotions. And my piece of advice really would be to people to say, be comfortable in the emotion, be aware of the emotion, allow it to flow through your body. An emotion should come through the body and be there for 60 to 90 seconds if we are aware of it and we allow it to flow. When we don't allow it to flow, it gets stuck in the body, and this really can show up as physical pain. Breathe. So really, a lot of us are walking around not breathing. So really take some time to do some deep breath work. And sorry, this is a little bit more than one, but a big thing for me is, particularly with the emotions, if you're struggling in life, look for a therapist, look for a coach. You don't have to do anything alone. If you don't have a network of friends around you that are there to support you, look for somebody that can. It can be really lonely when you're dealing with something and either nobody understands or you just don't feel comfortable sharing it. But if you are going to a therapist, it's your time. And this is just a key element of self-care for me. And it's something that should be taught in school, actually.
That it's okay to ask for help, that it's okay to be vulnerable. We don't need to be like all the time perfect and, everything is going well. So who really defines what it is that I'm doing perfect, I'm doing amazing? Why don't we teach our children that part of being perfect is being vulnerable? And part of being perfect is asking for help. So, yeah, talking about sharing emotions, what would be one tool that you would share with everybody that they can use by themselves? If right now they're watching and they're sitting and they're saying, okay, I feel like I need to release this emotion. What's one tool that they can do on their own if they don't have right now access to somebody or a therapist or a coach?
Okay, so a very powerful tool I love to use myself and with my kids, and it's something I share with clients, is to name the emotion. So I think particularly our generation and onwards, we were taught not to feel our emotions. So even the power in saying, I have anger, I have sadness, that alone is powerful. But a great tool to have is, let's say in the moment of anger, close your eyes. Okay, I am angry. Give it an intensity out of 10. So let's say it's a 9 out of 10. What color is it? And where do you feel it in the body? And then give it a texture. And by doing this, it's allowing the emotion, you're giving it the awareness. And as soon as we give something the awareness, it takes the power away and it allows it to flow. And then it won't get stuck in your body.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And it's okay, right? Like it's okay if you're not able to say where it is in your body. It might take time for some people to
it
feel
might take
it.
time. Yeah, yeah. And I would say certain parts of that might resonate with others. So maybe they can name in the emotion the key one. Even if you do that alone, amazing. But even if you name the emotion and the intensity, or name the emotion, I feel it in my tummy. There's so many different parts in that. Try and do as many as you can. And exactly like you said, Rasha, somebody might be disconnected from their body. They might not know where they feel it. It's okay. But with practice, it's also bringing you back to being in your body, which is key to coming down into your rest and digest nervous system.
So this is grounding, right? Like this is what people refer to as grounding, because this is also another word we hear a lot. I'm not sure if everybody understands what grounding is, but to me, it's like you said, it's coming back into your body and feeling it and understanding it and kind of listening more to it, right? What do you think?
Yes. So grounding for me, you definitely have to come back into your body, but grounding goes deeper for me that we really have to anchor our energy into Mother Earth. So I think if most people, when they're grounded and they were to try and anchor their energy to Mother Earth without being in their body, you wouldn't be able to do it in the same way. So absolutely coming into your body is massively part of grounding. And then taking your energy down into Mother Earth and anchoring your energy together, very powerful tool for grounding. Yeah.
So if you were to break it down into two steps, so step number one is getting into your body, listening, resonating with it, being in synchronicity with your physical body. And then number two is you are not limited to just this physical body. So you're connected to everything else. And then once you connect to the energy of everything else, and then you feel that abundance, if you want, in your physical space, you're like expanding your physical space. So that would be step number two, right? It's beautiful. It's just very beautiful when you really work on it from that perspective. I think it's a nice reminder for all of us.
True.
So, Janelle, for anyone watching who is interested to contact you, what's the easiest way to do that?
Yeah. So people can contact me on my Instagram page, which is at the Tree of Hope ME, and I will respond to any questions or, anything that comes up for you there.
Janelle, I'm very grateful, first of all, for you to be here with me and for your time. Thank you so much for your insights and for all the information that you shared with us today. And this will not be the last time that we do this. So I'm really looking forward to our next one. Thank you really from the bottom of my heart.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Rasha, talking about one of my favorite topics with one of my favorite people. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode. We hope you found it insightful and you enjoyed it as much as we did creating it. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. Let's continue creating this amazing community of holistic wellness seekers and practitioners together. See you in the next one.